All right, party people, what's up? I am going to show you how to create a Next app and deploy it on Coherence today. So I think the first thing I need to do is make sure I'm logged into a fresh Coherence account. So I've got one of these, this YouTube demos one, which doesn't have any apps in it. So I see the default onboarding screen. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start from scratch, make a Next app. Again, as in other demos I do, I'm gonna use Cloud Shell instead of my local machine because I don't like to install anything on my laptop. But this could as well be your laptop. In your example, I found this Next blog starter that's maintained by Vercel. So it's like a blog example using Markdown and TypeScript. It's going to be an example of something that you all might do. Yours might be a little different, but same ideas should be relevant. And yeah, we're going to figure out how to do this. Be honest, I'm not the deepest TypeScript, JavaScript expert user. I've done a couple projects and helped with some deployments at Coherence for sure. I'm more of a Python guy myself. But yeah, we're gonna look at this how to use. I like yarn, so I'm gonna do this yarn thing. Gonna make a new example here. We're gonna go like this, and we're gonna call ours, today's July 8th, so we're gonna call this the July 8 demo. Yeah, we're gonna end up running out of space when we go to Next to install the node packages. I know that, but as long as this stuff's in here, it's going to work okay, which it is. Yeah, no space left on device, that's okay. I'm going to ignore that. What I'm really going to do is delete this node modules folder once it's done. Refresh this thing. CD July demo. We are going to, yeah, I think we're good. We don't have to delete any of that. Okay. So I've got my little example repo here, and I've got some example pages in it. It's got posts, it's got slug. This is sort of the template that stuff is gonna work with. Right, and I think to add things into this, I would add Markdown files into this post folder. So I think this thing is gonna be pretty simple to deploy. We're about to find out. So the first thing we need to do is make a new repo. So we're gonna go to my organization on GitHub. You're gonna go to repositories. I'll stick with my naming convention. This is gonna be July 8 demo. It's gonna be Next.js TypeScript starter for YouTube. Make it public. You can all come to this and see the repo we're going to upload. It won't be that exciting, but might be useful for somebody. So we're going to do git init. We're going to do git status. This all looks like stuff I want to add. We're going to do git add dot. So we're just going to add all this. We're going to do git commit -am initial commit. You can put whatever message you want. You might even have an existing repo by the time you come to Coherence already, which would be easy to adapt to what we're about to do. I like to look at these GitHub instructions for how to upload stuff. I'm sort of at this step already. I will use main as my main branch because it's a new repo, and why not? I will add this remote. I will push. All right, so set up branch main to track remote main. If I do status, it should be up to date. Great, so now we're pushed. If I refresh this, I'm gonna see my repo here. That's beautiful. It's got my package JSON, which defines dev build start type check, all my dependencies. Very cool. And then we are gonna, yeah, I mean, we could tweak this, readme and stuff like that, but I'm not gonna worry about that for now. So yeah, this is gonna be my July 8 demo. I'm gonna use AWS. I used GCP last time, so why not? To get to AWS, I need to do my SSO flow. And I've got an account, Zach AWS testing, that I use for random stuff like this. I've definitely got some other apps inside this thing that cost a little bit of money. You know, you can see this is sort of $40. I think I have one simple Coherence app on here, so it's an example of a real world bill that you might see. It's July 8th, we're already at $10, so sort of on the same pace. You might see. I need this account ID, so copy this right here. I'll use US East, but you know, you can, just like on GCP, change to lots of regions. I've got my repo I created. We do have starters, you know, Redwood, React, Django, and React. You could use those instead of your normal flow if you were really just starting a brand new project on Coherence. Usually that's not what happens, and then, you know, because this is a new project and I'm on main, I'm just going to go ahead and use main, but you know, you might often want to onboard on a Coherence branch or some other branch, and maybe later change the default branch on Coherence to be main as you get more comfortable that you know it's going to work. We can accommodate all of those flows. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. I'm going to make sure that I've installed this GitHub app in the appropriate repos. Normally, you wouldn't have to do anything on the GitHub side. You would just click this button and pop up a pop-up window to install the GitHub app. Because I've already installed this app for previous demos, I need to just update the repos that it is part of. So if I go to settings at my organization level, if I go to GitHub apps, you can see Coherence is already installed, and I can just click configure. It wants me to verify stuff. Okay, I have it for all repositories, so I actually don't need to do anything, because for this demo's organization, I've allowed for all. You could optionally also choose select and, you know, just choose the ones that we cared about. So I'll just hit cancel and I'm good. And, you know, same thing, because I've authorized my GitHub before. This is a user level off based on the GitHub app, so it limits to the scopes and repos that the GitHub app allows. And now we are going to go ahead and connect AWS. So I'm going to create a custom trust policy in my IAM dashboard. So I go roles, I go create role, I go custom trust, I go next. I'm going to go ahead and choose administrator access. We do publish on our docs under this production environment setup a more scoped down role, and you could even edit this and add resource requirements and remove services based on what you know. Like, let's say you know you're not going to have a database, you could remove this stuff. You know, and we're happy to work with you on that together and make sure we get you the most tightly scoped role possible. But you know, to keep this simple, since this is just a sandbox account, and I trust Coherence, since I know we're trustworthy, I'm going to choose administrator access. We have to use this special role name on AWS, and I can put whatever I want in the description. So I could say account access for Coherence to manage infra for Next.js demo on July 8. I can kind of review everything I've done. This is a Coherence managed service account. You know, this 159 account is something Coherence owns. that we've created this user, and I'm allowing it to assume this role in my account. I could add whatever tags I want. I don't really care to add any. So this thing's added. I can wait a second and hit continue. Sometimes AWS is a little slow. Yeah, sometimes you gotta wait 1 minute. Google's always exactly atomically consistent, but AWS is not. All right, so now it's going to check for a Coherence YAML. It's not going to find one. That makes sense. I'm going to follow the link to the docs. I'm going to go to popular frameworks. And I'm going to copy a Next example. We talk about the two different ways Next is often run. One is as a Next export mode, which would use this front-end type. One is as a backend that supports server-side rendering, which we're going to go ahead and use for this example. So I need to add a Coherence YAML into my repo. I can go ahead and go new file, coherence.yml, paste this in. You can see I have my type of backend. We make sure we're going to include node modules into our dev environment. It's really what this local packages thing is used for, because we're going to run in a container and keep a persistent local copy. And then this is the command we run when we're deployed into a cloud environment. So dev is used in the cloud IDE, prod is used in any deployment to AWS or GCP, but in this case AWS, including non-production environments. So this is named a little confusingly, but they're production-like. And the idea is this is what's run in a deployed environment. This is what's run when you're doing development in a, not exactly local, but a cloud IDE context. It's all the configuration we need for this, starter app. There are tons more configuration options in the Coherence YAML. You can see these full examples. We can add workers, we can add crons, we can add databases and Redis and buckets and SQS queues and configure memory and scale settings, build machine settings, integration tests, preview environment timeout, VPC configuration. There's a lot of options in here. But just to get started, we don't really need a ton of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get status. This should show this thing. Git add, YAML, git commit, add Coherence config, git push. And I think if I go rescan, we should find the one service we added called backend. We could have named this whatever we wanted. Like I could have called this next, or I could have called this server. People like to app, people like different names. You can call that whatever you want. This type is really the only thing we care about. I don't know why I made that bigger. Yeah, it did find backend. Under this advanced, there is a cloud IDE to add the YAML file directly if you didn't want to even touch your local environment while you were doing this onboarding. It even has config test checkers that will check if this thing's going to work. I'm not using that. I didn't use it in the last demo. It's kind of alpha quality right now. We have a lot of work to do on our side, but it probably would have worked for this example. And yeah, just for fun, I could start one up and show you what this thing will do. Because this is a pretty simple example, I'm confident it's going to work the first time. But, and this config test system does not always work 100% reliably, but in the spirit of adventure, let's give it a shot. So I click Open Validator. This gives me a VS Code environment. It's already configured to the branch that I set up during onboarding. In this case, it'll be main, but could be, you can see, but it would be whatever branch. If you put a Coherence branch, for example, and here's my YAML. So I can try this, CLI config test. So we can see it found my Coherence YAML. It already was able to upload it. Validated it successfully, so we know the YAML's valid, and now it's going to try and actually containerize and build this app. Since I didn't define a Docker file, it's going to just use Nixpacks, which should work fine. We'll see how it works. This process can take several minutes. Drink some coffee while that's happening. Usually I would go check Twitter or something like that, maybe Hacker News. I'll show off a fun project that I'm trying to get more exposure for, which is the Cloud White Paper Index all rating. So this has almost 1,000 white papers from Azure, from the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, from AWS, from Cloudflare, and from Google Cloud. There's a Google Cloud one, so each of these will link you to the original source PDF. These are all best practice white papers written from the sort of like best practice organizations, the Cloud Architecture Center, for example, on GCP. There are some summaries of them here, and you can chat with them. So, we could ask it like, how do I migrate from S3 to Google Cloud Storage? I've never asked this question before. I don't know how the answer is going to be. It can take a few seconds. But this is going to use Pinecone and LangChain. It's going to reference all these tens of thousands of pages of text that it has and generate an answer with GPT. So I'm going to look at this. Configure a transfer, perform data validation, set up jobs to keep it in sync, stop all the workloads, refactor to use cloud storage instead of S3, wait for applications, start the new workloads, retire the old one, think about cost. This is actually a pretty good answer, and it's going to, wow, that's amazing. There was a Google Cloud white paper literally about this topic right here. It's probably a pretty good summary of what it says, and this is the only white paper referenced in this answer. Usually there's more than one, but because this was so topical, all the result hits in the vector search against Pinecone were on that. And the idea is these questions will actually lead you into these papers and you can read about them, and it's a pretty cool little project. Let's see how we're looking on our validation, and it's still running. It's a good thing that it's still running. That means that didn't fail yet. I gotta get the Jeopardy hold music. Jeopardy hold music. Always think about this. Runs through my head when we're doing something we're waiting for. So the goal of this thing is to make it so you don't have to wait for your cloud to actually, push real code to and see if it works. We're trying to speed up the feedback loop during initial setup. A lot of work to do to make even this faster. This is faster than the old process used to be. But this is stuff we're always working on our side of the table to improve the speed and simplicity of onboarding. So, let's see. Hopefully it works the first time and we don't have to wait again. But I was telling myself it would be done after that 30 seconds. I'm not going to cheat and look under the hood, which of course I could do. I could pause this video and save you some time. Maybe I'll edit some of this out. All right, look at that. We got a successful build, successful health check pass. So we know, pretty confident this is going to work the first time we go to deploy it to Coherence when we see double success messages coming back from the config checker. There's no changes. If these failed, we'd get a better error message and we would make some changes either to the Coherence YAML or to our application. Maybe there's an environment variable we need or something like that. In this case, I'm just going to close this tab since we did get a success. And I'm going to go back to Coherence, and I don't need the validator anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and click configure. This is going to provision things in my cloud, so it's warning me. You can always delete this stuff. Everything we do is reversible. We have a delete action on our settings page, but this is going to do some stuff in the cloud, and I want it to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and click. This is going to show us what it's doing. It's probably not going to take 20 minutes because we don't have a database. That's usually the slowest thing to create, but it will take 10 minutes or so to create a VPC, an ALB, wire it all up. It'll tell us how long it takes as it runs. We're gonna go ahead and be patient. Again, oh, here we go, succeeded. All done, that's great. So I think that modal should have gone away automatically, but this will now be submitting at some point soon. There's something wrong with these initial pipelines in our system. It should, here we go, queued. Build and deploy are going to be the two phases of this build. At some point, this build should start spinning and go ahead and submit. That can take a few minutes, especially the initial one. We at least need a build phase to succeed before we'll be able to create a workspace because it needs the Docker images. The workspace is ready to be able to work, but we can see already in Coherence, we've created one environment, which is our main environment. That's because we selected this branch during our onboarding. Eventually, we could also have some archived or paused environments, and these will explain what they are. Yeah, the default environment can't be paused, but if I had more environments, there's a state there that would explain what those are. I could create a new branch environment, very easily just by going branch 2. And if this was an existing branch, it would find it. There's no other branches in my GitHub. That's why it doesn't find anything. But otherwise, it will go ahead and create a new branch from whatever the default branch in GitHub is set to right here. Or we could enable auto create features from pull requests. So all pull requests automatically get a feature right here. This is also where we can install our Slack integration. And then if you do enable this setting, you can turn off automatic deployment. So it could, for example, just run tests. You can turn off integration tests, which are a separate type of test from unit tests or tests that would run in your build pipeline. In Coherence right here, this will run against the deployed review environment on a feature every time it builds. So you can control if those defaults are on or off. You can also change that at a individual feature level with these settings, and then on a pipeline level, if these weren't turned on, each pipeline would show the option to do it. Not sure why this one isn't working. I have seen some weird behavior with the initial builds in our system, so I'm just going to go try and submit another one, see if this one actually submits just for fun. I'm impatient after all this waiting today. Now, see, this one started spinning much more quickly. I don't know what's wrong with this initial stuff. I'm going to take a screenshot so I remember to have my team look into this next week. But yeah, this is where we manage variables. This is all integrated into Cloud Secrets Manager. Like, this is going to take me to what we call a review collection, which will be a default set of variables shared by all feature environments in this AWS account. And I could set foo and bar and go ahead and add this, and this is shared by all the environments in my review collection. And if I went to main, I would see this variable is now present. I could view the value. This is stored in Secrets Manager. Coherence doesn't have raw access to it, except when I indicate that I want it to. I'm able to override this, so I could set it to bar 2, something like that. And now this is available for this feature, on main only. This lets you sort of get nice control over what is available to each environment. This will link me to the ECS service in AWS, where we're going to deploy this app eventually. So this is where I can see logs and metrics out of the box, things like CPU, memory. The deployment event streams are here, and then the logs from the application are here. As you added things like databases, Redis, workers, all stuff we talked about in the YAML, more services, because each app can have multiple services if you want, in addition to having multiple apps. That would show up here, and then every app can have a custom domain in addition to this Coherence provided domain. We don't need any of that yet. I want to watch my build pipeline running. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to watch this thing in progress. And I can see we're using Mixpacks. It's great. Node 16. It's installing stuff. into the next build. That's great. That means we're almost done. Means it's likely going to work. If you specified a Docker file, it would have used that instead of the Nix packs for the building. But since we did this as simply as possible, we didn't need any of that. The next builds are actually pretty good with Nix packs. Anyway, we can see it generated exactly what we expected. This was some of the Markdown files that we saw in our repo earlier. And now we're pushing to our ECR registry right here, which was automatically made for us by Coherence. So yeah, you can see we're still in this build backend phase. Then it's going to go ahead and try and deploy this thing to ECS. I think we might have a fully working environment in under 45 minutes here, which is pretty good. So build is done. Our interface is a little faster than AWS sometimes, so it's still spinning, but it's already done. Yeah, here we go, succeeded. If I go to the pipeline view, I could see my pipeline is still running. So I mean, we saw this is really done, just a little slow, and it's into this deploy phase, which is in queue. It'll kick off any minute. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Into deploy phase. This is now running, so this ECS log is going to sort of be the best place for me to see what's happening under the hood. I can see, what can I see? If I go to the deployments tab, I could see that I have this task revision 2 that was just created. It's 1043, it's 1043. This is going to show one desired. It's not running yet. It's going to have to pull the Docker image and then try and start it. But it is pending, and ECS is going to get this thing running. Assuming we pass health checks, it will then stay running and start working. So this build will get faster the next time through because it'll have cache as well. So this is at, overall we're probably going to be somewhere around, you could see this has been running, runtime of 4 minutes and total time, minute and a half of queue time and stuff. So there we go, it already worked. That means we probably see one running here. That's exactly what we want, one running, one desired. So total runtime, 5 minutes 36. We could submit another one and just see how fast it is while we check stuff out. I bet it'll get down around 4 minutes the next time. But yeah, look at this. Blog works. And I think this will, yeah, these posts will work. And this will work. Pretty rad. So this is a fully working deployment. We'll see how much faster it gets, which, trust me, it'll get faster. I can make a new feature, test 1, create a new branch, create. It takes, just like it took time to deploy all the AWS infra and do the build, we're probably 15 minutes out or 10 minutes out from a working deployment on this test 1 branch, but we can already know our URL, and this is all going to be provisioning in this review collection. If I update this right now, we'll see it's adding the environment stuff for test 1. It's less things than initially because there are some shared resources like the ALV and stuff, but some of this takes a little bit of time to do. So 38 minutes, fully working deployment from scratch, from installing Next.js. I'll start workspace and show you how that's going to work. see our queue times on code build are a little slow in this project. I can request additional quota and play with the size of the build machines to get that time down. But that'll obviously take some time out of the build. But I have a feeling that the actual build runtime will go down significantly from 2 minutes, 30 seconds, even though that's already pretty fast as a simple project. Average boot time per workspace is about 2 minutes, so should expect something like that for this. All right, a little faster than that. So yeah, I can open my workspace and I can see, similar to the config check environment, this is my repo. It's already set up with GitHub, so my git status and stuff is all going to work out of the box. I can pull, I'm authenticated, right? I'm already up to date. I could use this VS Code Git UI if I wanted to. I can install whatever extensions and themes I want to. I can also do that in my Coherence profile. And then the cool thing is, in addition to the actual VS Code editor, I've got a working dev preview running right on this instance that is hot reloading the code. So I could, this is still loading, but I could change some stuff. Like, for example, I'll change the title from Next.js blog example to Next.js Coherence blog example. And that should be saved. And if I refresh, it's pretty slow, surprisingly. But when this thing loads, I can give this environment more resources. I'm not sure exactly. I need to see what's going on, why it's slow. But you can control the CPU and memory of both your deployed environments as well as your dev environments here. But the dev server is working. This is serving directly from this environment. I can see that with CoCLI logs. And see the logs. CoCLI sort of, as you can see, between the config check command we did and this is our CLI that's auto-installed in all these environments. And I can read the logs that are coming out of this here. It says I need to do something with Nodem, so I can look into that. But yeah, this is taking a little bit of time to compile. Okay, unhandled runtime error. Not sure why I'm seeing that. I'll try this. Sometimes the hot reloading in these JavaScript projects gets in a weird state. I've seen that before. Hoping this shows coherence in the title is what I'm hoping. And then leave that thing loading. We can see, yeah, so we went from 230 to 148. Definitely got a little faster. Not sure if that's a game changer. Yeah, but assuming we see the coherence thing pop up here, which I'm sure we will eventually, this is a successful deployment on Coherence. We have a working workspace. We have a working build pipeline. We are already creating our test environment, which is still provisioning here, but when that's done, it'll kick off that deployment. And we already looked at some of the settings to manage the lifecycle of these features. I was going to show you, active, paused, archived, they're sort of all explained here. And obviously you can manage your collaborators as well, and read more about all of the things that are happening here and what they all mean and the details of how they work on our docs, which we are always working to improve, but which have nice search and Hey, and just to close the loop, it's a couple minutes later from when I just made that last video, but that collection did finish its configuration in about 6 minutes. the test environment was created, this initial build deployed successfully the first time on this branch, about 12 minutes after we created it, and less than an hour after we started this whole process. We've already got working full stack branch previews, that we could enable automatic integration to create from all pull requests in GitHub. And yeah, just wanted to finish that out. Have a great day.